Hi there. This is Vienna, capital of Austria. Today I'm not going to visit the main tourist attractions, the famous buildings from the monarchy area, 18th, 19th century. Today I'm going to explore, or at least in the coming few hours, I'm going to explore what is called the Red Vienna. So that is red as in socialism. And here we are right in the middle of it. This is the Karl Marx Court. A huge residential building that has been built in the late 1920s. It is one of the first examples of subsidized housing. So we are talking about the time after World War I. The living conditions here, at least for the not so rich people, were bad. It was filthy. There was no functional or almost no functional heating. Food was scarce. Infectious diseases were spreading, and at that time Vienna was governed by the Socialist Party, or actually not Socialist Party, they called themselves the Social Democrats, and they were responsible to build these kinds of residential buildings. So that's not the only one here, the Karl Marx Court, but it is the largest one. It is said to be the largest residential building in the world, with a length of over 1 kilometer. And look at these sculptures. If I remember correctly, the first one stands for or symbolizes enlightenment. This one stands for freedom, and the other two ones on this side, what was it? I think this one stands for care, and the fourth one something like body culture. Train station over there. Okay, so this is the central part. I am now going over there first to the northern part, where there is also a museum, and after that I'm going to explore the southern part, and then I will leave the Karl Marx Court and walk over to the Friedrich Engels Square, where there is another residential building from this time. Yeah, here you can see what the whole complex looks like. Currently we are here. So here we have these 4 large gates. That's the southern part, and this is the northern part, which I am going to explore next. Entering the northern court, that's what it looks like. So one thing that is special is that many of these apartments, or at least was special at that time, that many of these apartments have balconies, which was quite uncommon for working class people's apartments. And the apartments themselves were quite small. I think the average size was about 40-45 square meters, which is not much for, let's say, a family with maybe 2 or more kids. But still, that was much better than what was normally available at that time. I think that nowadays many of the apartments have been enlarged, so they took 2 or even 3 apartments sometimes, I think, and made one larger apartment from them. The apartments were quite small, but all of them had running water and heating, which also was quite uncommon at that time. So unfortunately, I don't think I will be able to go in somewhere. One of the reasons why they could keep the apartments quite small, still offering enough space, is that there were many communal buildings like the kindergarten. I'm not really sure if this kindergarten is really from that time, but I actually think so. And this one over there is the laundry building. So they didn't have to wash their laundry in the apartment. There was a communal laundry building, which is now a museum, which I'm going to visit right now. The Red Vienna. It is, well, it's not that cheap, but for me at least it's worth it. So let's go. The washing building. I think we have to go up there. Oh, look at that. I have to say I don't really know who these guys are. Crazy. Ferdinand Lassalle. The flames of his mind brought light into the darkness of a working man's life. Interesting. So here we have a map of all these communal residential buildings in Vienna. That's the one where we are right now. And a bit later I'm gonna visit this one. So this building style is called the Superblock. Not modern, not mimicking the antique. Backside of the washing house here, and I think that this is the northernmost part of this complex. So I think you can see it's all connected, so no separate buildings, it's all connected. So that's why it is the largest residential housing complex in the world. What's this? Squash and indoor golf. That's interesting. I don't think they had it in the 1920s. Back in the central area of the Karl Marx Court, really wondering what it was like to live here 95 years ago. This is the outer facade of the southern part, and well, it doesn't really look that nice. It looks quite less nice than the inner court, the inner part of these courts. So let's take another one of these gates and go inside. Seems like the southern part looks very much like the northern one. Yep. All in all, I wouldn't consider this beautiful architecture, but when you compare it to other similar buildings from the 1950s, 60s, 70s and even 80s, it is still a bit nicer, even though it is much older. I don't remember if I mentioned that. I think I said that this era of the Red Vienna started after World War II, so there was poverty due to the war, there was hyperinflation, there was an economic crisis, and Vienna was ruled by the Social Democrats after this. And this era ended in 1934, where, as you can imagine, the fascists took over in Austria about 1 year later than in Germany. Okay, I think that's it from the quite impressive Karl Marx Court. Here's another kindergarten. So looks like they did a lot, or at least try to do a lot for families. What you can expect from a socialist government. And I think I'm gonna go on my way to the second most prominent residential building of this time at the Friedrich Engels Square. You know, Friedrich Engels was kind of the, I don't know, how would you call it, the intellectual peer of Karl Marx. I mean, these two guys were very different, but they worked together in some kind of way. Okay, let's go to the Engels Square. Forgot to mention that this place is about 2 kilometers north of the historical center of Vienna, and you can easily go here by taking the underground number 4. It's the final station. On my way to Friedrich Engels Square. This is the Danube Canal, which is actually some kind of side arm of the Danube River, which is much, much wider. And look at that. I mean, I would rather prefer to live in the Karl Marx Court than in one of these residential buildings from probably the 70s. Still on my way, and look at that building over there on the other side of the street. This is also a residential building built in the years 1977 to 1980. So this is only 45 years old, something like that. And let's have another look at it. Look at how ugly this looks, especially when compared to, well, this one, which is probably from the 60s. So especially when you compare it to this much older socialist architecture from the 1920s. And I have no idea what that is. No, really no idea. I think I have to look it up. But look at how extremely ugly that is. At least in my opinion. Okay, let's continue. And here we are at Friedrich Engels Square. If I remember correctly, these buildings are a little bit newer than Karl Marx Court. I think they are from the early 1930s. Look a little bit more modern. Unfortunately, everything looks a little bit ugly on a day like that. It's late December, 2 days before Christmas, and as you can see, one of these gray and rainy days. So I'm sorry for that, but can't do anything about it. Again, lots of balconies, and I'm not really sure if they are original, but actually looks like that. I think they have been like that right from the beginning. So this building is a little bit smaller than the Karl Marx Court, but still it is huge, and it's also having some kind of court inside. So let me try to go there, check it out. Well, I don't know. I actually like the Karl Marx Court a bit better. So this all looks really quite simple. It looks like it has been built with less money, and yeah, of course, when it's been built in the early 1930s, that was briefly before the fascists took over. Maybe they weren't even able to finish this. Except the balconies. I really like these balconies with this green cast iron or whatever that is. Yeah, that's typical for socialist architecture. Huge buildings with large green parks or places, playgrounds around them. And this idea was still popular in the 1970s and even 1980s. And I'm not talking about socialist countries. I'm not talking about the eastern part of Europe. I'm talking about any place in Europe you can imagine. Let's go over. There's another court. Maybe this looks a little bit nicer. Let's see. Oh yeah, the only thing I like about this building are these green. I don't even think it's cast iron. It's whatever it is. Modern playground, and I would say that this part actually looks a bit nicer. Quiet, and again these balconies. I'm wondering how large these apartments typically are. But at that time, I'm pretty sure they used to be small, but maybe nowadays they have been enlarged by combining two apartments into one. Doesn't look that great either. And I think over there we seem to have some kind of common building again. Maybe it is also one of these washing houses. Maybe it's a kindergarten. Let's have a look. Let's see what that is. Maybe we can get a hint. Okay, it's a doctor. Oh yeah, and it's a washing house. It used to be a washing house. Okay, so that's the other side of this somehow symmetrical complex here. And yeah, I need to admit that by now I really have enough of socialist architecture. Going back to the center of Vienna, meet my family who didn't want to accompany me on this little trip in the first place. So let's see, where do I have to go? I think I take this way. So yeah, it was quite interesting, and it's really an option to see these places, especially especially the Karl Marx Court. I do recommend it if you're interested in that kind of thing, but maybe it's not for everyone, and maybe even less so on a day like this in mid-December. But one of the reasons I wanted to leave the town center a little bit is because it is extremely crowded right now. So there are so many tourists, it's incredible. Mostly, or many of them, really from overseas. See a lot of people from the US, Arabic countries, East Asia. So yesterday evening when we arrived, it was extremely crowded, and I wanted to go to a little bit more quiet place. What is this? Let's check this out. But now I go back to the center. Maybe we'll go to some museum, whatever, but I'm not going to film there. Okay, hope to see you soon. I will spend the next 2 weeks in Hungary. I'm on winter vacation and we'll probably have some time to do some more video recording. Okay, see you then. Bye bye.